Hey guys, so today we're going to be doing a master all-encompassing breakdown video of the 4 new summonable sparking characters coming to Dragon Ball Legends. We have the fusing Goku and Vegeta from the Buu Saga into Super Vegito, the fusing Blue Goku and Vegeta from the Broly movie into Gogeta Blue, the red Supreme Kai, and then we have the green Fury Broly. Now, the point behind why I'm even doing this is to give an overview of the strengths of each character. I'm obviously not going to go through the entire the entire list of mechanics these characters have. If you guys really want to see my in-depth thoughts about each character, I've made individual breakdown videos that are already live on the channel. So for example, if you want to see like my in-depth thoughts about Supreme Kai, you can go take a look at his video, but I'm going to go through what I think are the highlights of each character here. Plus, we could take a look at the stats for both the fusing characters because we didn't get to do that before. And then lastly, we have equipment to take a look at as well, so we'll do that. And I do also know that the the details for the Zenkai LF Full Power Broly are out. That will be a separate video because I just can't fit it all into the same one. So let's first start off with Vegito here. So this is the fusing Goku and Vegeta from the Buu Saga. I have a few notes here that I'm going to go through just so that I know exactly what to talk about for each character, because there's actually so much stuff with each unit that I physically cannot remember everything that we talked about. But the first thing we want to take a look at are the stats. I actually did not see these before because we did not look at them in game. So let's take a look and display max stats here. So these are, wow, that's a lot of defense. These are going to be the stats prior to them Potara fusing. So 263 to strike, 261 blast, 190 strike defense, 188 blast defense. So to compensate for the arts boost system being taken into consideration and the title boost not being taken into consideration, we have to subtract around 8,000 stats from everything. So they're going to be at like mid 250s to offenses, which is not horrible, but it's not great, honestly. But defenses are looking very good. They're at least going to be at like 180 to both defenses, which is very, very good. Let's see if does Goku look any different? No, Goku's the same. Okay, fine. Let's see if they gave Vegito any additional stats here. Oh yeah, they sure did. Yeah. Okay. So this is what Vegito's looking at. Jesus. So Vegito Vegito is going to be at about high 270s, mid to high 270 offenses. And he's going to be right around high 180s, low 190s for defenses. He's going to be like just shy of 190 to both defenses. That's crazy. All right, so yeah, these stats are looking pretty insane. So one thing I wanted to quickly mention here is this actually applies to both Vegito and Gogeta. They do have special mechanics tied to their 14-star, specifically to their 14-star Z abilities. They actually both gain additional health buffs. 10%. So Vegito's is 10% health to Majin Buu Saga, and then Gogeta's is 10% health to, I believe it's God Key at 14 stars, where they don't have those health buffs prior to 14 stars. So it's a bit of an extra incentive to get them to 14 stars. Something they haven't done since the first anniversary. I'm really surprised they brought that back here, but it is what it is. So the thing about this character that really caught my attention early on, if we just take a look quickly at the Vegeta and Goku side, their switch ability in combination with one of their unique abilities here. So if we take a look at their switch ability, they are getting 20 key, cover null, and that's actually, yeah, that's kind of all I want to say about this. 20 key and cover null from the switch ability. That's number one. Then when this character enters the battlefield via tag switch, he's also getting a card, 20 key, and 20% to their switch gauge. So every single time they tag out, and also I think, yeah, so, and because they're drawing a card here, they're also going to be getting a 10 key from this. So they're actually getting 50 key every time they tag switch, and they're drawing a card, and they're increasing their switch gauge by 20%, and they have cover null. So because the way that you fuse into Vegito is going to be dependent upon you getting a bunch of tag switches, because it's going to fill up the synchro gauge, you're going to have, I think, a pretty easy time of getting the gauge filled up, because it's going to be so easy just to chain together these combos and get this with all these different gauges filled up a lot of times. So I think all of it should feed into each other pretty seamlessly. But just to quickly go over it, synchro gauge is what the mechanic is that they use to get their fusion off. The synchro gauge is filled by both filling up their unique gauge and by just doing a bunch of tag switching. Now, this character's unique gauge, if we take a look at that, we should quickly mention this as well before we move on to Gogeta. Charges unique gauge and applies buff effect, nullifies enemies, reduce Dragon Ball effects to self for 10 timer counts every time they gain a Dragon Ball. So this is basically the same style of unique gauge as Path to Power Kid Goku. but they cannot have their Dragon Balls reduced at all. And obviously this, in combination with the amount of switches you're going to be doing with the tag switch mechanic, should allow this character to pretty easily fuse. I mean, again, we're not going to be able to tell until we use them. So once we use this character, I'll be able to, you know, confidently see how fast they're going to be able to get their fusion off. But I really don't think it's going to be that tough to do. Now, Vegito himself, there's a few things just to quickly highlight with this character. One thing I was very surprised that he had is he actually does have permanent type neutrality. Was it here? Is it here? Where is it? Here. So once he gets his unique gauge filled up, and by the way, it could also be filled up. This Vegito has the same exact unique gauge as the pre-fusion Goku and Vegeta do with the Dragon Balls. Once you have the full unique gauge filled up, which you can activate prior to even fusing into Vegito in the first place, he actually just gains permanent type neutrality defensively. Nullifies unfavorable element factors for damage sustained, cannot be canceled. That to me is really insane, considering how high his defenses are and stuff like that. And then the main thing to quickly talk about with Vegito is his anti-Rising Rush gauge here, or Rising Rush guess gauge. Not even the gauge, but just mechanic. When own Rising Rush hits but wager is lost, avoid counterattack and deal supreme damage. So if you Rising Rush with Vegito, which by the way, he nullifies enemies' endurance when he Rising Rushes. So it's kind of the same thing that we saw with like Ultra Gogeta Blue and Ultra Vegito Blue, but this is even better because if you get guessed, you don't get guessed. If you Rising Rush and your opponent guesses your card, Vegito nullifies that. So yeah, that's fair. All right, so anyway, those are like a few of the highlights we've seen with Vegito. Obviously, there's way more with this character, but I don't want to go through everything. If you guys want to see my in-depth video, go to the individual Vegito video. Now with Gogeta here, let's take a quick look. So Gogeta, we'll take a look at his stats as well. Let's click on this. They are a melee type as well. So 270, yeah, it's actually a lot higher than Vegito's offenses there. So this character is looking at mid 260s for strike, which is, you know, it's a bit different than the Vegito's for sure. They have lower blast, but and then in terms of defenses, it's pretty similar too. I mean, I think Vegito maybe has like a little bit higher. It's the same thing though. So I would say in terms of stats for Goku and Vegeta, the Gogeta side is a bit higher stats here. Now for the Gogeta portion, oh my god. It's gonna have like 290k strike. Oh man, his defenses are a little lower than Vegito's. Yeah, Vegito has a little bit higher defenses than Gogeta, but I mean that's crazy. Yeah, I mean you guys can just look at this and tell that this is ridiculous, these stats here. So there's that. So similar to the Vegito character, Gogeta is able to fill up his tag switch gauge a lot, but it's via the blue and green cards. So this guy has a, what is this? I believe it's, oh, I'm on the wrong one. Let's go to Goku first. Goku and Vegeta both fill up their unique or their switch gauge by 100% every time they use a blue card, which is not shared between both of them. So for example, if Goku uses his blue card that charges switch gauge by 100%, you can then also do the same thing with Vegeta. It's not once only for both of them. It's once only for each. So that's a really good way of filling up the switch gauge really quickly. And then the green cards for both of them, both fill up their switch gauges by 60%. So again, the activations are not shared between both of them, so Goku and Vegeta can both do this one time each, get 60% of the switch gauge with the green card effects, which again is really, really strong because this character, like the Vegito character, fills up their synchro gauge by tagging out a bunch of times, and then also via their unique gauge as well. If we could take a look at their unique gauge, charges on unique gauge every time this character uses a strike, blast, or special move arts card while they are on the battlefield. So it is very similar to like Blue Beast Gohan, Ultra Super Gogeta, that style of unique gauge that fills up whenever you use a card. And then the first time you fill this unique gauge up, they are going to charge their synchro gauge by 25%, you can see here. But then they can actually empty their unique gauge and do it again. But the synchro gauge charge by 25% is only going to apply to the first time they fill it up, because it says activates once here. So seems like a pretty straightforward character here. And then once you get the synchro gauge maxed out, of course, you can then fusion dance into Gogeta Blue. So Gogeta has a very similar mechanic to Vegito. It's not entirely the same, but I have in my notes almost permanent type neutrality. Almost permanent type neutrality. And what I mean by almost is if we take a look at how many times he has type neutrality. Is this the right? There's so much text. It's actually ridiculous. I think it's here. Where is it? Here it is. So when he first fuses, he nullifies unfavorable element factors for damage sustained for 15 counts. So that's like when you're on the battlefield and you click the fusion button, he's going to gain that. And then for the next 3 times when you switch into the battlefield, he's going to nullify unfavorable element factors for damage sustained for 15 counts. So he's basically going to have 4 separate instances of type neutrality on the defensive side for 15 counts, which is, what is that, 60? That's 60 counts of type neutrality defensively, which is basically for the rest of the fight, I would imagine, after you do this. But yeah, he's a lot of type neutral defensively here. And then the other thing to talk about, of course, is going to be the Assault Chain new mechanic. So here's what it says. Applies the following effects to strike arts command chained into a strike or blast arts. So what this means is when you click a card, instead of charge stepping or sidestepping into your next card, you're going to want to actually just chain in right away without clicking anything. And that's going to activate this Assault Chain mechanic, which is going to allow you, as it says, nullifies enemy special actions that activate when changing cover, and nullifies enemies' evade or counter actions that activate when receiving an attack. So that includes Ultra Gohan's unique gauge, UI Goku's unique gauge, Super Janemba's unique gauge. All those effects are going to be nullified by this Assault Chain mechanic. So we'll have to see how well that performs. I assume it's going to be pretty insane, but those are pretty much the highlights, I would say, for both Gogeta and Vegito. There's obviously, again, a lot more for both units, but if you guys want to see my in-depth breakdowns for both those characters, they have individual videos available on the channel. So for Broly, we're going to quickly go through some of Broly's highlights here. Broly has some pretty good disrupt, actually. I was very surprised to see how good his disrupt was. So number one, cover change against strike cards, which is comboable with the blue card. I'm just going to read this section because it makes no sense to read this here. Following effects occur when changing cover: restores own health by 15% and ki by 30, nullifies own unfavorable element factors for damage sustained for 10 counts, reduce enemy ki by 40, reduce enemy's Dragon Balls by 1, and then when he takes a hit, he's going to heal by 15%, and then he's going to inflict all enemies with -1 arch card draw speed. So a lot of disrupt on cover change, and he's type neutral. Like, this is a big boy disrupt mechanic right here. He's actually doing a lot. I mentioned the healing already, so no reason to go over that again. And then offensively, I mean, the thing I mentioned about Broly is he doesn't really have cover null outside of the one-time cover null that he gets when he uses an arts card. So this is a character that I think you want to probably make use of in the middle of you already having a combo established. So like you start a combo with somebody else, and then in the middle of that combo, you switch in with Broly, and then he'll continue that combo with the cover null for, I think it's only 5 counts or so. The one weakness I would say for this character is he doesn't have baseline card draw speed, so he only gets card draw speed when the enemy switches characters, or cover changes with characters while he's on the battlefield, so that's a little bit unfortunate, but I think one thing to mention about this character that's a little bit unusual is he has a lot of critical rate. 30% critical rate for the first 60 counts of the fight, and then he gets another 30% via his main ability here as well, so he's going to actually get up to 60% critical rate. Critical rate I'm not really the biggest fan of, but once you start stacking a lot of critical rate, it becomes better, because the difference between your critical rate and the opponent's critical rate is what determines how often it's going to activate. So when you have a lot of critical rate and your opponent doesn't, I mean, that's a lot more of a chance you're going to actually get that to activate. So Broly seems pretty good. I think actually the biggest value you're going to probably get from him is going to be the disrupt, which is not really what you would expect from a Broly Fury character, but I'm glad that they did it because it adds a lot more value to these 1% sparking characters. Let's take a quick look at Supreme Kai, and then we'll jump into the equipment. So Supreme Kai seems very interesting, actually. Between Broly and Supreme Kai, I'm more interested in Supreme Kai, but I think Broly is definitely going to be a lot easier to use for like newer players. The first thing to mention about Supreme Kai is his disrupt on cover change, which again is a common theme we're seeing between the 1% sparking characters, but I do think that's a good design because that's one of the things they can bring to the table that not a lot of other characters can do. So as a 1% sparking, it gives them a bit of extra value there. So on cover change, restores on health by 10%. He gets some extra special move damage just in case you end up special cover changing the opponent, which is pretty nice. He's going to destroy 2 enemy cards, give them -1 to card draw speed, and then inflict them all with no switching for 3 counts. This is a super, super powerful cover change. This is like future Gohan on steroids. No switching on cover change while also destroying their cards is very strong, and then they're going to have a hard time drawing new cards because they have -1 card draw speed. So I actually really do like that a lot. The other thing to mention about this character is the sealing mechanics. So this bottom portion of the first unique ability, falling effects occur every time this character uses a strike arts card. He's going to get, so Supreme Kai actually gets a specific damage buffs depending on what card's using. So strike cards gives him strike damage, blast cards gives him blast damage. But here's the interesting part about this. Seals enemy strike arts whenever he uses a strike card, and then he seals enemies blast, special, and special move arts whenever he uses a blast card. So I think there's going to be a lot of instances where people are going to be trying to, like, you know, aim for blast armor against this character, or try and like like a lot of people tend to like sit at long range and match the opponent's blast cards with their blast cards. You can't do that versus Supreme Kai because your blast cards are going to get sealed. So it is important to remember how many times this guy's going to be sealing your cards, and I think that actually is going to allow this character to be a pretty good combo initiator, which is pretty rare these days. So I'm actually very intrigued by this. We'll see how well this is able to work out. And then the last thing to quickly mention about this character is the support that he's giving. Applies the following effects to allies when this character is either switched out or defeated. So he technically has death buffs, but it also is going to apply when he switches out as well. Drawing a card when you have 3 or fewer cards is actually a really strong support ability. He's going to heal the team by 10%. He's going to give the team 30 ki and 20% damage, and he's going to gain a Dragon Ball on switch out, which is going to activate twice, which is crazy. So Supreme Kai, I think, is looking pretty good as a sort of like utility disrupt support style unit, which I think is probably what 1% sparking should be most of the time. So nothing really too bad to say about Supreme Kai. I'm going to be looking forward to testing out how he does. Lastly, let's take a look at some equipment. I believe they mentioned in the reveal and stuff that we were going to be getting some... I got to clear out my equipment thing. I did a lot of PP yesterday. I got to take a look at some of the equipment they mentioned in the reveal and stuff, because I think they said there's going to be a bunch of unique equips. Okay, this is new. I assume this is going to be... What is this, PvP? This is for Fusion Warriors. This is, yeah, Gogeta Blue is on there. Special move damage 10%, base health 10%. Oh, it's one of these ones. Strike attack by 20%, and then 12% pure strike if this character is Goku or Vegeta. Damn, that is crazy. I mean, I actually really like this these kinds of equips. We have had one for Goku and Bardock already, which you almost always use on Goku and Bardock. We've had one for the Saiyan Saga characters, which you almost always use on every Saiyan Saga character. And we've also had one for Powerful Opponent, which is basically what you always use on, like, you know, Ultra Gold and Frieza. So I think this is probably just going to end up being an auto-equip on both the characters, both the Vegito and Gogeta units. This is really strong. I like this a lot. Special move damage. I mean, typically the slot 1s on these are kind of useless, like base critical, but this one actually has blue card damage on there, which is really good. So this is even though this is just a normal gold equip, this is a really, really good equip. You guys should definitely farm that up. All right, anything else? We have this over here, which is... Okay, so I think this one actually is going... This is in the co-op equip section. So co-op, the current season, actually lasts until Wednesday. So this equip should not come out until Wednesday. So we have a few days before this releases. You actually can't get this yet, just so you guys know. So this is for Fusion Warriors. Base critical is kind of not great. 22% base critical. Then he's going to get 20% to both base defenses. And then if you have a full Fusion Warrior team, you're going to get 12% to Pure Strike and Blast. Like, yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, not really a huge fan of critical in slot 1. I wish that was something else, but this is a solid equip. You know, all the co-op equips typically are pretty good. This is no exception, although critical is not the greatest, but it's still good. Still good. We have this, which I think... Event-exclusive Majin Buu Saga. They did mention that we are going to get a free-to-play yellow Android 18, but it looks like she's not in the game files yet, so we'll have to wait and see when that comes out. But I imagine this is tied to her event, right? So I think they're probably going to have to do another data download before Wednesday's reset to add her into the game, because I think this equip should be obtainable via her event. So I mean, this is the same stat spread that we typically see from these free-to-play event equipment. So I'm not really going to go through all these, but it's a must-use on, you know, event-exclusive Majin Buu Saga characters. Okay, so here we have the two other unique equipments. We have this one, which is for Potara. Obviously, you want to use this for the Vegito character. 10% key recovery, 12% to special move damage, and then 30% to base offenses. Yeah, nothing crazy, but this is very solid. Very, very good equip there. I imagine the Fusion Dance one is going to be the same. Fusion... Yeah, oh, it's a little bit different. This one was key recovery and special move damage. This one is health restoration and special move damage. And it's a little bit separated in terms of the stats too. So he's getting 28% to strike defense and then 38% strike. Yeah, this is probably a little better. Vegito's is both offenses, right? Yeah. I think I'd prefer if it was this instead. A bit of a higher focus on what the character wants to do, because obviously Gogeta's going to be more of a strike character. And then instead of giving them secondary offense, they're giving them main defense, which I think is a little better. So, but obviously both these are good. I think this is clearly a must-use on Gogeta. And then this is probably a must-use on Vegito. I'll have to see what kind of options he has available, but this seems pretty good. I imagine that's probably it. No awakened equips yet because I don't think Zenkai Rush is resetting yet. Yeah, I haven't farmed this, but this is not really anything crazy. So there we go. That is going to conclude the master breakdown video where we went through some of the highlights of the new characters. Let me know what you guys think. I am going to be doing a live summon stream for the new characters, which should be going up very, very soon. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one.